But we would make like deer jerky, and I loved the deer jerky. Out of everything my mom we would make, I loved deer jerky. A lot of the other meats I was not a fan of because it would be too gamey. That very strong taste. Ugh. The doe you're really not supposed to kill because you want them to keep making babies. But when they would get older, we would kill them. And I love the doe meat because they don't have that gamey taste as bad as a male deer. So, anyhow, needless to say,
so part three happens. This is a boss at work. After you're safe.
Yep.
Okay. And then you change churches.
Yep.
And what happens then?
And we went to Life. Was it Life Point? It's off of Long Hill Road where my school, Lafayette, is. Because I grew up in Williamsburg. So, or James City County, really, whatever. I was always in Toledo in the next area. So, from this area, even if I'm not from New Kent, my husband is. So, so around that time, I had changed the job. That's how that boss got a hold of me. And I was working full time. So I was working 40-hour weeks plus my schooling, trying to keep my grades up. And I just kept holding on. I was like, no, Lord, I know you've got something better for me. And my stepfather was so abusive, physically and mentally. He had already knocked me down the stairs right after that sexual assault, fell on top of me, and then slammed me into the ground. Like, you are going to listen to me. And I'm like, you're not my father. And just like totally losing on me because I wasn't listening. And at that point, I didn't care because I had no respect for him. Right. He tried to practically kill my little brother, which is the second one down from the baby. And even when he had been, and he was raised, he wasn't taking care of him at the time. That my little brother's trying to put stuff in his mouth that shouldn't be and not edible. The man had I had no respect for him because one of the times when he was beating my brother to death, my brother was so little. And if I can ever have you meet him, you'll see. Like he's a bigger guy now. But when he was little, and he took the breath out of him. I thought for sure he was going to be dead. And I said, why don't you pick on somebody your own size? So he chases me into the kitchen. And he's like, oh, like you? And I'm like, oh, okay. I was like full force. I'm going to let you have it. And
this is for all the stuff I've been through with every man.
Already, he had already told us at one point we had helped him move his extra stuff into that house. And before he started living with us, and my mom and him got married, so he had a VMI because he went to VMI. And I will not ever send any of my children to the Virginia Military Institute ever. I despise them. Because of the monster they made. And I know it's not 100% them, it's partially him too.
Right. He's obviously
but because of the paper it was on, he was like, you're replaceable. This is not a piece of freaking paper. So I already was told that I was, replaceable with, by him. So when I hit him, I wanted to take him out. I was like, I'm done. I do not respect you. When he landed on top of me at the bottom of the stairs, my sister and my boyfriend at the time were at the top of the stairs, and I was telling them to call 911, and they were so afraid of my mother. They wouldn't. And my mother wouldn't do anything. She was standing right there next to him, telling Gabby, you just need to calm down. And then he'll let you go. And I'm like, you should be standing up for me, not for this piece of shit.
Wow.
Excuse my language, but
no, yeah, that's terrible.
It was so infuriating that no matter what I did, it was like she was never there to really back me up. And I wish my dad was there. He would have stood up for me. He always did. And it was so hard. And so after that, he left me alone because he was like, good job is what he told me. He couldn't believe that I made him see stars for at least 3 or 4 seconds. And I was surprised I could even do that. And my husband, quick story, my parents grew up knowing each other and we were babysat together, me and my husband. So at that time, I'd already been playing at my now father-in-law's paintball field, New Kent Airsoft and paintball games.
Yeah, you guys were so little.
I've been doing that since I was little. Oh my gosh, since I was 13, I think is as old as he. Aww. Like you had to be above 12 for him to let you play. So I started going over to his house, even though me and my husband broke up at the time. He had gone off to the military because he's a year and 9 months older than me. So when I was 16, he had already gone off to the Marines. And because of 9/11, he was already in the heat of everything. And his dad told him to break up with me because he didn't need a distraction because he knew he was going into enemy territory.
Right.
And the war was going on. So there was no way. He did not want him to end his life by not focusing. So even though it sucks, my husband would have always been my husband. I would have married him back then. Like, I was in love with him then, and I'm still in love with him now. But I started going to his dad. I still helped out at the paintball field, and then I learned some self-defense from him.
Oh, wow.
And that was the best thing, knowing that I had that support.
Right.
Because my mom always had a lot of friends that were guys. And a lot of them were father figures for me. And I had one that was Russell. He always had a drag car. So that was awesome because I love vehicles. I've always loved cars. Then my godfather, Joe, who became my godfather. And then Avery Sr., my father-in-law, was my father figures that really helped when my dad couldn't be there because my mother was still doing that until I was 18. You can't see your dad unless you're, And what's bad is when he tried to do it her way and just have him pay her directly.
Right.
She reported it to the court that he never paid. So she kept us from our dad a lot under lies and the sheriff, Walter Dutton, I will never forget his name because he was in James City County and he was a scumbag in my opinion. He unfortunately did not protect me and my siblings. He protected my mother all the time because Walter Dutton was my grandmother's friend and kept me with my mom. And that man will never, that ruined a lot of, but I can't say 100% ruined. God has made me who I am today. So no matter what, it's made me stronger. But it definitely shows me how I have to protect others. Because a lot of people can't protect themselves.
So how does that go? You and Dad get into you and your stepdad get into a fight. What, you hit 18 and you move out, or?
Yep. So I go and before I graduate, quick story. My mother had to go out of town because my little sister had to have surgery. She has scoliosis, just like I do, but worse. And so hers is where your shoulder blades are flat when you're like this. Hers was sticking out standing like this.
Oh.
So my dad and my mother had to pair up and go to Shriners Hospital, I think it's in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And get her surgery done. Well, they had to be gone a whole week for this procedure. So one of the days, the daycare was supposed to take my little brother, and nobody was there on time. Don't know if there was a special holiday. I don't know. I don't think there was because school was open. So there was no reason they should have been late, and I couldn't afford to be late or they were going to take my parking pass, which I couldn't afford because I had to work full time.
Right.
And so I had to take my little brother to school. So that school, especially the principal and the assistant principal, knew I was very dedicated. They let me keep my little brother with me all day.
Wow.
I took him to all my classes and took care of him. So that's how much responsibility I had growing up.
You literally
my
took your
senior
sibling.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to take my little brother that was, I think he was 3 or 4 at the time.
Oh my
to
gosh.
School.
Like baby, like little.
Yeah, little. He was not in elementary school yet. And so, my first class was geography. And it was so funny because all the kids in the class, because it was cold, so it was winter, or fall or spring, somewhere where it was cold at that time of the year. Everybody put their coats down and made a bed for my brother so that way he could be with me. So that's how dedicated I was as a person and as a believer, that I made sure my brother was taken care of, regardless of what was going on. And I don't even know why my stepfather wasn't in the picture at that point. I don't know if they already separated or what. They've been off and on so many times throughout the years, and I think they're just now getting divorced after all that time. So
You mentioned the brother passed away. Was that during your teenage years?
no,
Or was that
that's been as an adult.
Okay.
So I
18.
graduated.
Yep.
And I went off to NASCAR Tech.
Which bravo, by the way, because that was the whole thing.
That was.
Yes.
It was 2,500 school hours you have to do to get the certification because it's not a degree.
Okay.
So it's very much being a technician, as they call it, not a mechanic. You have to know certain things, but you have to have so many hours to get the certification. Now, there's a lot of mechanics that don't go to school that have been doing it since forever.
Right.
And I could have been one of those, but I only did shop class during high school and then went straight into NASCAR, and I never worked in the actual shop. So I did my years right towards the end
you
of
were
my
NASCAR
school.
tech certified.
Yeah.
That's really
Yep.
cool. That's so cool. You want to come work in my
NASCAR
car?
Tech is part of UTI, their school system. Oh,
That's
I know.
amazing.
And you know, it's funny because I do still work on some cars sometimes.
I love that.
But like, I got to go do an oil change tonight. We just did the starter Wednesday night, me and my husband, because I could not get the darn extension and everything to that point. We had to get the swivel, sockets just to get to the stupid bolt, because I was not about to drop the drive shaft or the muffler just to get to that stupid starter that was like in like this nook and cranny. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Because I tried to go to work Wednesday morning and it died. I tried to turn the truck on. He had already left. I can't take my daughter's car. She's got to work too. And I'm like, daggone it. So my husband's like, I called him and it was like 6:40 in the morning. I was like, honey, how do I get to work? He's like, Gabby, it's not going to rain today. You can take your motorcycle. I was like, oh yeah, it's been raining so much. I forgot I even have a motorcycle.
Facts. Yes, I know, girl. I get it.
So drove to work and then came home, started it up. It started right up, which means that it was either the alternator or the starter, because in cold start, it takes a lot more for a vehicle to start, especially overnight, because even though it's summer, you got to think, it still gets cool enough at night that it's too cold for the engine to start unless it's hot.
Right.
Well, it sat in the sun all day, so it started right up. Took it there so I could have them do that extra double check, because I don't have all the tools at home. It's expensive to be a mechanic. I can't work on everything by myself. There's a lot of tools you do not, no. So took it up to O'Reilly's, and they did the test, and they were like, it's the starter. I'm like, okay, cool. So I started it. Then my husband had to help me, and then we worked together to do it because he couldn't even get everything without my help. So it was perfect. Especially with my little hands, because I can get up and hold the bolt where I needed it to go, where he can't. So
because they got those big old hands.
Yes. And I'm so glad, because so many men, after getting out in NASCAR Tech, even my daughter's father, he did it. It's like they felt, I don't know, like I was demoralizing them, or what do you call that?
Intimidating.
Intimidating. Yeah, it was so intimidating to them.
Yep.
And I'm like, no, I want to be respected. I don't need a man. That's what I've always been like. My dad is raised just like that, to be very independent. You want them. That's the difference.
Right.
And I'm training my daughters to be the same.
Yep.
That you need to be able to know how to do things yourself, because otherwise people take advantage of you. And I've been so many times over my life, as young as I can remember, I've been taken advantage of in so many ways. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this again.
Right.
That's when I decided, do I become a fighter, or do I just let everybody run all over me? And I was like, no, I'm a fighter. I've always been a fighter.
Well,
Shooting,
Jesus
boxing,
is the leader of battles, so it's not like we're not supposed to lay down and just we gotta fight a little bit.
Scripture, because I love this one scripture that I want to read for you too.
So you
anyhow,
what happens whenever you go get those credit hours? What happens with your siblings? Are you still taking care of them?
No. So I went to NASCAR Tech in North Carolina. It's in Mooresville, North Carolina, and the school is still there. So I had to leave, and let's just say everything fell apart. So my sister went off to live with my dad, the next one in line, because we were graduating the same year. So then...
Oh, yeah, because you guys were only 16 months, so now it's what?
We're both graduated at the same time, since I was held back, so we were in the same grade all the way. We ended up in the same English class sometime in high school, too.
Wow.
We hated being in the same class together. So, needless to say, my brother and my sister took the brunt of everything. Whereas, and even my little brother, the youngest did not, because that was his child.
Yeah.
So even though he had left me alone and he stopped messing with them for a little while, once I left, he messed with them again. And I didn't know of a lot of things. I just remember when I found out after my brother graduated, my sister was left, and she moved out. My mother kicked her out. She was like, get out of my house. You're not following my rules. Get out. So she had to move in with my other sister that had just gotten married. And live with them just to survive her last junior and senior year, which is where her life went downhill, because then she started being in a relationship with a guy that was, I guess, very narcissist. I'm finding out now.
Is that the one that was involved with the photos?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she even at some point had her own issues and had an abortion. That just so many mental things.
Right.
Right. It was very hard for her, and I didn't know this until much longer. Later.
I don't think that you realize whenever you're going through it, especially like I grew up very similarly, where we had to be tough and we were the oldest, and you had to do all these things. But I don't think that you realize going through it what it's actually doing to you up here.
No,
you don't have time to think about those things because you got to make sure.
Punch buggy. Sorry. I'm sorry. My daughters always get me and I never see them. Sorry.
She got me. She got me.
I only did it late. Just like, hey, tap, tap.
But yeah, I don't think we realize, and it's not until we're in our adulthood that we start to go, oh, that's why I'm a control freak. Oh, that's why I'm, I've got to have it this way, you know? Yeah.
Oh, and I even forgot. Every time CPS, she would know ahead of time when they were coming. She would work us like slaves for like 3 days. She's such a hoarder that there would be animal feces, food going old on the stove. Like we were expected to eat it, even if it had been sitting out for 3 days. I had to start making meals at the age of 8. Wow. She always had us in the kitchen, and I was expected to make a lot, do all the chores, just everything. And working like a dog, cleaning the house for so long, every time CPS was about to come, that would tick me off. I'm like, this is not my mess. This is yours. So it did make me an OCD person for sure.
I'm sure.
Not as much now because I'm just exhausted. I am tired. I feel like my whole life I've been in fight or flight mode, and I've always been in fight.
Right.
So I don't know how to just be
Chill
calm
out.
when things are just chill. And with my
you.
ADHD, I don't know how to just really relax and be very
present.
Yeah. I have to stay busy, and I think that's become an issue, but I think God's finally using me in the right way to get that more on track where I'm not so freaking out.